You know, there are less students in Texas who are enrolling in public schools right now.
We want to show you some numbers. This is from the Texas Education Agency. The state had seen an increase in enrollment every year since the 1987-88 school year, up until the 2020-2021 school year. That's when enrollment decreased by 2.2% to 5.3 million students. That's roughly a loss of 122,000 students from the 2019-2020 school year.
So what is the reason for this drop in enrollment rates? Well, the pandemic, obviously, it played a big part with schools switching to virtual learning, but there's also several reasons, like students moving to different school districts or states, students working or disengaged during challenging times.
Of course, drops in attendance and enrollment typically affect state funding.
It does, but Governor Greg Abbott and the TEA say funding will soon be available to schools who are experiencing a drop in attendance. In fact, our Andrew Christensen has this report.
Students at West Oso ISD might notice there are not as many kids going to school every day.
We are not hovering between 88 to 89% average daily attendance.
That daily attendance at around 96% before the pandemic, says West Oso ISD Superintendent Conrado Garcia. He says enrollment is up, but the daily attendance decline is affecting funding they receive from the state.
It's just simple math. You just get less money.
Garcia says the funding will help West Oso schools, but says if the state goes back to funding schools solely based on current enrollment and attendance, then West Oso ISD could cut budgets.
The extremes, and again I say extremes, would be to freeze employment. If you have a vacancy, you may not be able to fill it right then and there.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott says the funding is going to help schools retain teachers.
Fully fund.
Nancy Vera, the Corpus Christi president of the American Federation of Teachers, says the funding is beneficial to schools, but overall, teacher pay should increase.
It's not unusual for a teacher to put in 12 hours a day every day, and they're not compensated for that. Like they should be, like other professionals.
But for some school districts, attendance and enrollment declines are not a problem.
What we did at
Ingleside ISD Superintendent Troy Merkovich says they are not seeing a drop, saying they invited students back on campus earlier than other school districts.
We were already notifying parents that if their students weren't being successful, it was going to be mandated that they needed to be back at the campus. And so once we started doing that, that's when everybody pretty much came back.
The adjusted state funding will also be based on students attending school remotely and will apply to the first 4 reporting periods of the current school year. Reporting in Corpus Christi, Andrew Christensen, KRIS 6 News.